Good evening, everyone. Avid Learning welcomes you to an evening of the way of the Sufi. Sufi Tariqa sharing Sufi practices with Sheikha Khadija Radin. Avid is the story of the passionate who believe continuous learning energizes us throughout life. Avid Learning, an SR initiative, fosters creative learning across the fields of literature, culture and heritage, art, visual, performing, and applied through various platforms that include workshops, lectures, and panel discussions. Last year, we reached over 10,000 passionate learners with over 100 unique workshops, events, and programs. This year, we have an exciting assemblage of workshops and programs. Our year began with sister cities, Karachi, Mumbai, and New York, an interesting discussion between Mr. H.M. Naqvi and Mr. Naresh Fernandez. On 19 January, we have a full-day workshop on decoding Art Deco, architecture, furniture, jewelry design, and its importance on Mumbai. At the Jaipur Literature Festival, Avid will present a panel, The Artist's Eye. Glenn Lowry, the director of the Museum of Modern Art, New York, will discuss modern art with Mark Quinn and Anish Kapoor and leading cultural theorist Homi Bhabha. Avid is knowledge partners at the Skoda Prize and presenting the Speakers Forum at the India Art Fair in Delhi from 29 January to 3rd February, followed by the Avid Spectrum at the Kala Ghora Art Festival and a food writing workshop in February. Last year, we shall also be present at Art Dubai this year. More information is available at the registration desk and in the Avid newsletter on our website. As we progress with the evening today, we will give you a brief flow of events. Sheikha Khadija Radin will introduce us to the Sufi philosophy in the global context and brief us on the myths and facts of Sufi practices, discussing the similarities and influences of Sufism in various religions and art forms. After a short refreshment break, Sheikha Khadija will have a demonstration based on a story where she will transform herself into various characters. This will be followed by a practical and interactive session of meditation techniques and whirling practices, which sums up to give you a complete Avid learning experience. And now to introduce Anupa Mehta. Anupa Mehta is an arts consultant and art manager. She is the director of the Loft at Loparel, Mumbai, and Arts Reverie, a residency space in Ahmedabad. Also a published writer and columnist, Anupa's interest in Sufism dates to 2006, when she traveled to Turkey and was swept by the Mevlevi dervishes. Soon after, she met Sheikha Khadija Radin and has been studying with her since. She was fortunate to have received her Dervish initiation in the Mevlevi Order of America in 2010. I'd request Mrs. Sangeeta Katiwara to please welcome Anupa Mehta. Of Avid Learning to welcome Sheikha Khadija Radin. May I now request Anupa to kindly introduce Sheikha Khadija Radin. Enjoy the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiran. On behalf of Sheikha Khadija and myself, I'd like to express our sincere thanks to Mrs. Ruia, the team of Avid Learning, Asad Lalji, and all of you present here today for making this evening possible. Sheikha Khadija Radin began turning in 1970 after she saw whirling first performed by the followers of Sufi Murshid Samuel Lewis in San Francisco, California. She was at that time a teacher and a choreographer of modern dance and formerly a member of the Lucas Howing Dance Company in New York. Shortly thereafter, she resigned from an administrative and teaching position with the San Francisco Art Commission to travel from Holland overland to India and back, searching out the mystics, especially the dervish. She has been teaching turning since 1978. Khadija has been whirling for 8 years when she met Posnashin Jalaluddin Loras and began the study of the classical Mevlevi turn. She has followed the way of Mevlana ever since. She was given permission to teach Mevlevi turning in 1982 by Posnashin Loras. Sheikha Khadija is on the cover and featured in a book called Women Called to the Path of Rumi, The Way of the Whirling Dervish by Shakina Reinhardt, for any of you who would be interested in reading more. Sheikha is also a Sheikha of the Sufi Ruhaniyat International, a Sufi order founded by Murshid Samuel Lewis. So she has a lineage and two traditions. Her training in meditation in 1969 with Swami Rudrananda and later with Swami Muktananda gives her a connection with India. In January 1982, she began turning with Zen master Zoshu Sasaki Roshi, and she was ordained a nun by Sasaki Roshi in 1991. So we can see the confluence of lineages. She teaches that one can experience meditation, drumming, whirling, and every other activity as a doorway to being present, to experience that which through the eyes and hears through the ears. One can find the opportunity in every activity to identify with that which has no residence. This is her teaching. To offer just one example of her maqam, a spiritual station within the international community, I would like to share with you that she was invited by the Mufti of Palestine to give a talk to the Sufi sheikhs. And the Imam of Al-Aqsa Mosque, which, as many of you know, is an important place of pilgrimage, Abdul Karim Zorba accompanied her as a mark of respect. At this gathering, the Imam did not say anything, and only Sheikha spoke. My own engagement with Sheikha Radin, I would say, was an act of grace. I was drawn or led to the Mevlevi tradition in 2006 when I visited Istanbul. Around that time, she was offering workshops in Israel, and I wrote to her to ask whether she would let me know if she ever came to India. And she said, "If you bring me, I will come." So in many ways, it was a leap of faith for her and for me, because she came to India not having ever met me. Since then, she's been coming for the last 5 years, and we've been holding workshops in Bombay, in Ahmedabad, and Pondicherry. I myself grew up in a Vaishnava family where my grandmother would be absorbed in her Lala Seva for many years. So coming to Sufism in many ways was like letting go of everything that I knew and held. It was like standing before the edge of a cliff, and then after I jumped, it's been akin to flying. So I would just like to end with what Hazrat Inayat Khan said. Speaking on practice, he said, "If it be asked, what is the purpose of practice, of spiritual practice, it may be answered that as the purpose of all rain is to return to the ocean, so the purpose of every soul is to return to God. Some drops unite in little streams to flow down the river, which ultimately loses itself in the ocean." I'm very grateful to my teacher for having consented to come to India again this year, and I'd like to welcome her, please. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. The program might not be in the exact order that it was described, but I will try to cover all the topics that were mentioned. So I'd like first to start out before words. Sufism is synonymous with direct experience. So the very first thing I want to do is to teach you an exercise so that as I talk about these things, you'll have more understanding of what I'm talking about, okay? So I would like you all to just cast your eyes down and pick something for which you're truly grateful. One thing. I'm sure you all have many things, but just pick one. And think about what it is about this thing, person, pet, talent, possession, situation that makes you truly grateful until you feel the gratitude. And when you feel the gratitude, go into your body and feel, where is this gratitude emanating from? Where is the center of it? Okay, so if you will just take a moment to do that. Okay, so you can see that you can use your mind directed in a way that will ultimately end up as a direct experience. And Sufism, there seems to be like a... Shall I hold this further away? Is that okay? Can you hear me now? Okay. That's what Sufism is all about. It's about direct experience, and it's about understanding what those experiences are and the succession of those experiences to develop you into a ripened being. And there's no one size fits all. People come to this path from different traditions. And the beautiful thing about Sufism is you don't have to relinquish your own path. Hopefully, Sufism will enable you to better understand your own path. And so now I'm going to talk about the essence of Sufism, and maybe you can apply that to your own traditions, okay? So we're in this room together, and you're watching me with your eyes, and you're hearing me with your ears, and you're sitting in a chair or standing, and you have all of those sensations going on at once. So the seeing, it's light that goes through the mechanisms of the eye into the brain, and I appear. But in fact, it's appearing in your consciousness, yes? Everybody can understand that, right? And the same thing with the hearing. Hairs on the cochlea are vibrating through the mechanism of the ear up into the mind, and direction of sound appears, language appears, and even the meaning of language appears. And it's all appearing as impulses on nerves, as is, thank you. Okay, is that okay? Thank you. As is seeing. And your position in your chair, you sense yourself through proprioception, which is nothing more than temperature and pressure on nerves all over your body, which give rise to a notion of a self. So it's not that I'm not here, or I'm not speaking, or you're not sitting there, but your experience of all of this is just impulses that can't be caught. Some can be measured, like they can measure brain activity, but it can't be caught. And it's what probably in your tradition is called life force. Well, when they say God is closer than your jugular vein, this is what they're talking about. That it's the carcass is sitting there, but the whole notion of knowing that is just impulses. And in consciousness, not only does all of the hearing and seeing and smelling and tasting and touching take place, and thought take place, but the notion of a self takes place. And then we attach to that self and claim that is the subject and everything else is the object. Can you see that? So in the Vedantic tradition, let me see, so I read it and don't misquote it. In the Chandogya Upanishad, it says, "In the beginning, this world was just being, one only, without a second. And it thought to itself, let me become many, let me multiply myself." And in the hadiths, in the Islamic and Sufi traditions, it says Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah was a hidden treasure, and he wanted to be known, therefore he created this cosmos. And in the Genesis in the Bible, it's the same, and in many, many traditions, it's the same. So what are they talking about here? Is there, when it wanted to be known, it's just consciousness reflecting back on itself through life. To give you an example of this, there's a flower there. Well, actually, let's take a blade of grass. It's more humble. There's a blade of grass outside, and there's a blade of grass in New York where I live. And both of those little blades of grass do an amazing thing. They take sunlight and minerals and whatever mechanisms, and they make chlorophyll. Besides water and air, chlorophyll is the primary substance of this planet. Now, we can't make chlorophyll, but the grass has a consciousness that can make chlorophyll. It's its nature, yeah? So that blade of grass in New York and this blade of grass in the street, is that separate consciousness, or is there a photosynthetic consciousness? Well, it's easy to see with a blade of grass that there's a photosynthetic consciousness that comes and arises through these green living things. And like that, all these appearances in consciousness in us come in the very same way. Now, a dog can do that too. It can see and feel and touch and smell, but we don't think a dog contemplates the origin of itself, and that's unique, as far as we know, to mankind. And that is the basis of all mystical traditions. And that is the basis of the inspiration of all the prophets and wise people that have come and seriously and genuinely self-inquired and got to the truth, and then felt an obligation to give it back. When you have wonderful teachers, as I have, you have no choice but to dedicate yourself to give it back. And while it seems so simple, and it took me 5 minutes to explain this, it takes a lifetime to realize this and to manifest this as where you come from and how you comport yourself in this reality. That's why the Sufis say, and many other traditions, live in this world but not of this world. So I just wanted to start with that. I'm sorry I'm getting off program, but I couldn't go forward without setting that down so we have a basis of understanding. Okay? So now when I was asked to speak here, and Mrs. Ria asked me to please connect Vedanta and Sufism, well, that's the connection. And there were streams of Sufism, and I want to get this right. So there were streams that have been traced, and there are handouts in the back, so you don't have to remember all of this. You can read this at the end. But there are streams that came through Greek knowingness, through Egyptian knowingness, through Vedantic knowingness, and through Islamic knowingness. And these streams gave rise to different tarikats, to different Sufi orders. And so it's interesting, the two orders that I teach in, one is the Chishti order, and Moinuddin Chishti went from Afghanistan to India, and Mevlana Rumi went down, just ahead of Genghis Khan. He went down to Damascus, Mecca, and with his father. He was a very young boy, and then ended up in Konya, Turkey. They came from the same area, which had the largest Buddhist monastery in that whole area, which was primarily Buddhist back in those days, So isn't it interesting that all these three streams came, and these were my three main teachers, in addition to which was Muktananda. Now Muktananda always, and when I studied with Muktananda, he had 11 American students. We sat in his room with him. There was no one there was no one else there. We had incredible access to him. And he was always saying, kneel to your own self. Honor and worship your own being. The Lord dwells within you as you. Yeah? Well, now think about what we just talked about. All of these impulses that are giving rise to a consciousness that gives all of your past, everything you know of your past and way past, right? The Big Bang is appearing in your consciousness. The very now is appearing in the way we talked about, and anything you project in the future is also being done by that very same mechanism. And so this is what it means, kneel to your own self, honor and worship your own being. The Lord dwells within you as you. You are an immaculate conception. Even if you're thinking not so nice thoughts, the very way which they come into being is immaculate, pure. They can't be sullied. It's only energy. And when you understand that and see what a miracle it is that you are, then your whole life is just a script, but the treasure is that you are. And if there was a statistician that could give any one of us the odds of being here from the time 2 cells of mitochondria and a cell made an agreement to live together and evolve, until this time, with all plagues and wars and everything it takes to just conceive and carry, and then health, for us to be here, the number is incredibly small. The odds of any one of us being here is truly miraculous. Yeah? Truly. I mean, I can't even fathom the number, and I don't know that the best statistician could. So here we are, all arising in this beautiful consciousness. And when you take that as the very first thing when you consider anything, then you go through life in grateful humility. And the more you consider it, the more fall on your knees gratitude. And that's what spiritual retreats are all about. They're about taking time out from your life so that, can you turn off your cell phones? We forgot to say that. They're about taking time out from your life to just consider these very basic truths. Okay? Any questions? We're going to have questions now.
Which was the other part? Is it Chishti
And Zen, the Buddhism, and then of course Muktananda. So, because for me, and people say, don't you feel hypocritical? You know, you were born a Jew. And by the way, I also did a concentration on Mother Mary for 40 years. And I say, absolutely not. This is so obvious all one. And any time I open my mind to consider more of it, there's absolutely no contradiction, and these are the streams to get, that are running into the same ocean. And Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi, who was declared, a whole year was devoted to him from UNICEF, is the poet of peace. And the Buddhist traditions had peace, and so does the Chisti lineage have peace and acceptance. So there's really not a whole lot of difference. I mean, there may be different practices, but there's not a whole lot of difference. Any other questions? Okay, so now they asked me what kind of flowers I would like, and I said, well, in the Mevlevi tradition, the flower is the rose, and I requested red and white roses because red was symbolic of love and white was symbolic of purity. And love is a very big component in Sufism, but it's not objectified love. And when you want love that you think is not your own content, then when you pray to a God that you don't understand you are an expression of, and get into subject and object, you sort of lose your way according to the mystic. And the mystic tradition is to bring you back to the understanding that, like when a mother looks at her child in her arms, that's just newborn, and knows this is herself, and serves this child for life, unconditionally, because it is herself, yeah? That's the closest human love, where the child is really the beloved, the love, the lover, and the beloved, yeah? Gratitude is a close runner-up. So gratitude is so easy for any of us to access, so easy. We just have to pick something we're grateful for, contemplate it. That's with the left mind. And then you feel it, you get the right hemisphere of the mind, and you remember what something's like. And you feel much more whole, yeah? So anyone can do this at any time. So now I'd like to move into a second exercise so you can see the power of gratitude. So now I want you to think about a challenging situation in your life. Pick one. We all have a lot to be grateful for, and we all have a lot of challenges. So just pick one. Get very clear what is that. It could be a physical pain, it could be a condition, it could be a person in your life or a situation, just like the gratitude one. Pick one. Get very clear what it is so you really identify this sort of contraction feeling around this awareness, okay? So just take a moment to do that. Okay, now I'd like you to, without an agenda of changing this, what the next part of the exercise is not to make this challenge better or go away. I simply want you to allow the gratitude concentration and the challenge concentration to coexist. So for example, if you had a pain in your knee, you can go there with your mind's eye, right? If I say to you right now, go to your knee, you can all go there with your mind. So go to wherever your challenge is, and it doesn't have to be a physical challenge. And then pick that which you're truly grateful for and get that feeling, and just feel grateful as you feel your knee or whatever it is. So let's do that now. Okay. So, some of you might notice that the challenge, while it's there, doesn't have the impact it had, yeah? And some of you might notice that if you had pain, the pain diminished. But I don't really consider that the success of the exercise. The success of the exercise is to allow your challenges and the things you're grateful for to coexist. Hmm? There's a poem by Rumi. He said, "Where is their safety?" I said, "In service and renunciation." He said, "What is there to renounce?" I said, "The hope of salvation." If you pray to God with an agenda, and we all do, but that, you know the story of Rabia where she says, "Oh God, if I pray to you to get to heaven, then forbid heaven. And if I pray to you for fear of hell, then cast me into hell. But if I pray to you to be unified with you, then please accept this prayer." Yeah? So these are the tools that I would like to give you to take away to your life. Yeah. And I think that that this is the fundamental basis of meditation. Yeah. Any questions? Okay, so before the break, I'm going to do this story dance that addresses this. Now, in all traditions, in your traditions, your dance and music came from these spiritual stories. Now, here's an interesting thing. You know how I talked about the left hemisphere of the mind and the right hemisphere? Well, the right is the intuitive. And you listen to stories in a different way than you listen to lectures. And that's why all the spiritual teachers employ stories, so that you'll receive it on a more intuitive level, so that it will enter you. So this story, I hope, will demonstrate what I just talked about, and perhaps allow you to take it in another way. Okay, so we need to move this. Once upon a time, a long time ago, there was an old dervish. He had walked many a mile down the dusty Dunya road. Dervish walk this road, but are not of this road. For they realize that every impulse of energy traveling on the nerves of the five senses and the mind is the only presence giving rise to all of space and time, including the notion of a self. One day the dervish came to the edge of a river. It was too far to cross. As he stood at the edge of the water, he wondered should he walk up or down the riverbank. And as he stood there wondering, a beautiful woman came walking down the Dunya Road. When she came to the river, she began to sing, alluring and discriminating mind, shackled and fixed in phenomenal lore. Release this condition of mind confined and deliver me to the garden on the other shore. So beautiful were her words that two white peacocks swooped down, lifted the woman under her arms, and carried her to the other shore, where she continued to sing. From the five senses, a self did appear, complete with a future and past, proclaiming the notion of a self so dear. But this mask from the past did not last. Now I have quiet and unified mind, once shackled and fixed in phenomenal lore, released from this condition of mind confined and delivered to the garden on the other shore. The dervish was enraptured by the beauty of her voice and pierced by the wisdom of her words. He longed to be with the woman on the other shore. The more he longed, the sadder he became. Just then, an old hag came walking down the Dunya Road. When she saw the dervish, she said, "Dede, what's the matter?" Ever since I was a young lad, first entering the Zawiya, my Sheikh taught me that all that I hear is mind as ear, and mind as eye is all that I see. And so it is clear that from the five senses and activity of mind is mind giving rise to a me and everything else, and yet I long to be with the woman on the other shore. Always remember that you arise as yourself and all else that was and will be. If you do, you'll realize you contain all there is, and that sets yourself free. You've been a good dervish. Take these 3 beans. The first one you will plant, the second one you will eat, and the third you'll put in your sleeve for another time. And with that, she began to turn and turn and turn and turn and turn till she turned into a golden fish that leapt in the river and swam away. The monk took his staff and burrowed a hole at the edge of the river. He took the first bean and put it in the hole. And he took fresh water and put it in the hole. And he took the freshly burrowed earth and covered it. Then he took the second bean and ate it. Whereupon he turned into a young, handsome man. No longer needing his staff, he threw it in the river and watched it float away. He took the third bean and put it in his sleeve for another time. The first bean turned into a little sprout that grew and grew and grew, becoming a vine that went higher and higher and higher up into the sky. The young man began to climb the stalk until he too was higher and higher. And when he got to the top, he leaned in the direction of the other shore. The vine arched gracefully over the river and deposited the man. No sooner was he deposited than he embraced the young woman. No sooner did they embrace than the young woman turned into a beautiful pomegranate tree with long, graceful branches and leaves that rustled in the wind. The young man was devastated and began to weep and weep and weep. So copious were his tears that the river began to rise and swell higher and higher until suddenly the golden fish leapt out of the river and began to turn and turn and turn until she turned back into the old hag, who said, "Who is spoiling my river with the salt of their tears?" "I am. The woman has turned into a tree, and I cannot control myself." Fool! When the mind wanders through folly and schemes, distracted from noble intention, remember that time and space are just dreams, and the self a creative invention. Don't you remember the third being? And with that, she began to turn and turn and turn and turn and turn until she turned back into the golden fish that leapt in the river and swam away. The young man took the third bean and ate it, whereupon he turned back into the old dervish. Now the sun was very high in the sky, and he was very tired from all those changes. He wanted nothing more than to lean against. Just 1 second, can you turn that off, that music? Thank you. He wanted nothing more than to lean against the trunk of the pomegranate tree, protected by its long, graceful branches, and listen to the leaves as they rustled in the wind. And the leaves seemed to say, bondage or freedom, is there a choice? Right now, there is only the breath. When this too is gone, there is time to rejoice as the dance in the valley of death. So we'll take a break. I'll change into turning clothes, and I'll talk a little bit about meditation and the practice of turning and how turning is a movement meditation, and then I'll do a turning dance for you, and then I'm going to invite you to come over there and maybe experience what it is, just a little taste of. Oh, you whose breath is like that of Isa. Everyone is breathing a minuscule amount of the breath that Jesus breathed. We're all breathing the same atmosphere that's been around for a long time. Don't breathe from such a distance. Don't think you're far from the source. You're right there. The source is as you. I am the admirer of the one who is not far thinking. I admire the ones who feel close to me or as me. If you say, I'll go behind, don't go. There is no behind. And if you say, I'll go ahead, no, there's no way ahead. That means understand that space and time are your content. Open your hand and be generous, and take the hem of your own robe and be merciful. For there is no bandage for this wound except this garment. So this is a reference. Open your hand and be generous. Everybody understands that. Take the hem of your own robe and be merciful. So the dervish wear these robes, and they're called tenures, and that means skin of light. And they represent the burial shroud, the white shroud when they're buried. And be merciful. Just understand you're in this miracle for a very short time. Even if you live to be 105, like my Zen teacher is 105, I had an uncle who was 98, and he sat about 2 feet from me, and he said, from where I sit, went by like that. And he made a really loud snap, which I don't seem to be able to do. And it was like, whoa, you know, he was 98. Open your hand and be generous, and take the hem of your own robe and be merciful, for there is no bandage for this wound except this garment. For there is no bandage for this wound. This wound is feeling separate. And the only thing that's going to heal that and reunify or remember is to understand how it is that we are born in consciousness, how the I comes to be, how the universe comes to be. And then all of a sudden, you're back. All good and bad qualities are parts of the dervish. Whoever is not like this is not a dervish, meaning that there's no saints here. You don't have to be a saint to get this. You just have to get this. You know, Rumi has a beautiful poem. Well, let me finish this. Whoever has gone beyond place, his only place is the heart. Such a heart for which there is no place in this world. So when the dervish turn, everything turns on an axis, right? Everything turns on an axis. And the axis goes up to the edge of the universe, up, and down to the edge of the universe, down. And then when you first turn, your axis is about as big as your body, and you refine it and refine it and refine it till it's about the size of a pole, and then a stick, and then a pencil, and then the lead of a pencil, and then the center of the pencil, a strand of hair. We call it a strand of light. And then when you've really centered and you go into the center of the hair, there's no residence for this axis, and everything you took yourself to be is turning around you. Then you take this strand and you contract it into the heart. So now there's this no place, and this is turning. This strand of no placeness is turning. And what does anything turn on? An axis. So in this no place, so fine, even finer is this axis, and that's what is meant of man contains me in her heart. Now, the concentration is light upon light, which is a line in the Quran. And everybody has heard this light upon light. And there are big discussions about what this means, this light upon light. This is what this means, that when you get to that place is an emanating sun out of which this radiance is coming, and your whole body, which is turning, is bathing in the radiance of this sun. This is what, now, Rumi had a teacher. He met his teacher when he was 37. His teacher was 61. His name was Shams of Tabriz. Son, Shams' son. And these are the secrets that Shams taught Rumi. Rumi was an incredible scholar, had a Sufi background, was the head of a Sufi school, and but he wasn't completed, and Shams was sent to complete him. And then the real completion was for Shams to disappear. He wasn't murdered as rumored. Shams sacrificed his relationship with his most beloved, so his most beloved would suffer and realize that Shams was his content. And ultimately, Rumi said, I have 100 Shams on each hair of my beard. He reached that place of realization. So here's a delicious thought for you. All of you have somebody in your life, a mother or father, who you loved very much and departed from this world, yes? Does anybody here not have a person they loved very much who departed from this world? Everybody? Nobody? You have no person that died that you loved? Ah, okay, well, you're an exception to the rule, okay? So, now, I want you to think. When the person died, did you love them less? No, right? You loved them as much or more, right? So that love is intact. So they left. Do they love you less? Forget reincarnation or heaven or hell. They're gone. From your reality, they're gone, right? They are. They're gone. Physically, they're gone. Now look, every time they kissed you, patted your bottom, dressed you, gave you presents, gave you a hug, tickled you, this was all born out of your own consciousness, yes? Just like we discussed in the beginning, that anything you see, including yourself, is arising in your consciousness. So all of that love is your content. And if you get that, then it never goes anywhere and it can continue to nourish you. So I want you all to do me a favor. And today, before you go to sleep, pick somebody who you loved who left. Even somebody who abandoned you, that didn't leave, just abandoned you. And see that it was your own capacity to love that made it thrilling. Because if somebody left and you didn't love them, you wouldn't even notice they left. Or you might be grateful they left, right? They could be a pain in the neck. So what's amazing is when you love somebody and they leave. So that's your capacity to love. And that's your treasure, and you never lose it. So you can love people unconditionally. Because as soon as you realize that you love someone, a puppy even, Muktananda used to say, don't put my picture on your altar. If you love your dog, put your dogs on the altar. Whatever makes you feel love, that's what you should put on your altar. So it's all these people who have departed. Go to bed with one of them in your heart and feel the love and see not only is your love intact, But every piece of a moment that you experience love for them, if you take the time to remember it, you have it. And it keeps nourishing you. Okay? So now whirling is a meditation. And it's a focus of this refining and refining and refining the turn. And to realize that everything that you took yourself to be is turning around you. And then you have what the Sufis call fana, which is annihilation of the self. Inshallah, God willing. Okay? So I'm going to do a turn for you. And then I'm going to invite you to try a very simple turn with a very simple meditation. And that'll conclude the evening. But before I do that, I want to know if there's any other questions. This is your time. Don't come up and ask me at the end. You get it right now.
When you meditate, I'm a novice, I don't meditate. Simply because I was telling someone that you have too many thoughts. And you have, so you can't be, or I can't be too quiet. Is there an easy way? Of course, they said when you meditate, you will slowly lose those thoughts and you will become an expert at it. But is there an easy way to lose those thoughts and actually really do go into meditation? Is there a way at all?
The answer is yes, there is a way to lose the thoughts. But there's no need to lose the thoughts. And also, experts don't get rid of their thoughts. It has to do with, and we don't have the time in this evening for me to go into this, but you're welcome to come to the workshop on, what's the date? 19th and 20th, where I go into it in detail. So there's a very natural breathing technique where to do it, it's nothing like the pranayama that you may have learned, and to do it is very absorbing. And in Sufism, the activity, all your activity is done in active submission. Active submission. So if you, and here's just a little bit about it. At the end of the breath, the outgoing breath, you don't take, you allow for a rest. You just say, please rest before the next breath comes in. And if you're there for that, a rest comes. And you're not determining it. You're actively submitting. And this active submission is a very important part of refining your manner. And they say that Sufism is all about adab, which is manners. But it's not manners like you must use this fork or you must say thank you. It's manners of refining your manner of being from this awareness of the subtlety of what's really going on. So you can see that if you allow for a rest meal, all right, let's just do this a little bit. Just breathe. How are you going to breathe? Don't take deep breaths. Don't hold breaths. Just breathe. And then at the bottom of the exhalation, just allow for a rest. And if it comes, fine. And if it doesn't, the breath comes in. And when it comes in, just allow it to come in how it wants. And then when it goes out, allow for rest. We'll just do a few breaths so you can just feel this, okay? and relax. Did your mind slow down? There you go. The plan is working. Well, there is such a thing, but you're just there are such things, but no, you don't have to do that. You just have to be actively submissive. Everybody has two perfect moments of surrender. There's a surrender to the in-breath from the out-breath, and there's a surrender to the out-breath from the in-breath. And if you're there for those two moments, without even changing it, but you're really there, your thoughts will slow down. So then we go into this breathing, and we refine it a little more. How you hold your body in a way to facilitate breathing, and where to breathe into and things like this. But it's just actively submitting. You're not doing it. And this act of submission in your life, has anyone studied tango? Raise your hand if you've studied tango. No one studied tango. Okay, so tango is about feeling the partners shift and then going that way. Or Tai Chi, the pushing and pulling hand exercise, where nobody's pushing and nobody's pulling, but you sense it. It's like that. Well, that's how you are in life. There's this dance of stillness. There's a dance of stillness, and there's a stillness in dance. So I think without further ado, I'll do this stillness in dance, inshallah. Can we move this off to the side? luck. Dizziness. It's beginner's luck. It feels good. No. They won't know. No. I was just resting.
Between the breaths. You will be aware of the breaths.
Yes.
That's it.
Well, there's a little more, but yeah. So, we're going to do a very safe turn. This is not what we're going to do. What I did is not what we're going to do. I mean, we are going to turn. But it'll give you just an idea. And all you need is a space about as big as one of these squares that, so anybody had, but it should be smooth. So place in your house. Preferably not your bathroom. But because sometimes that's the only tile place in your house. Like you can turn, that much. And you can turn. Okay, and we're going to do a slow, very meditative turn, and I'm going to show it to you right now. Okay, so you're going to put your hands on your heart. You're going to look to the left, and you're going to move in a circle. Did you ride a scooter as a child? Yeah. So this is the propelling foot, and this is the turning. Okay, you can turn with your heel around your toe or your toe around your heel. It's more precision to turn heel around toe, meaning this, rather than this, because that'll send you spinning off to pieces. So if if you put your foot here, then you're just walking around your foot like so. But here's the fun part. When you do this, what normally happens is you turn and then watch the symbol. It stops, turn, stop, shift, turn, stop, right? But this is a planet turning around the heart. So when you go around, even when you shift, it goes around smooth. That's the meditation. So this is the sun, and this is the moon or Venus or whatever you want. And when you stop to shift the foot, this doesn't stop. It doesn't do this. All right? And it doesn't slow down or speed up. It's very even. And that's the meditation, and you're just breathing. And if you have it together enough to allow for a rest at the bottom of the exhalation, you can do that too. But otherwise, just concentrate on keeping that elbow butter churn smooth, and that's all there is to it. Okay? So, try it. And you would need socks.
So gentlemen, please take off your shoes.
Yeah, gentlemen, take your shoes off.
We do have some extra pairs of socks.
Okay, so here's how it looks. Smooth. Look at your left elbow and turn to the left. It's very easy, the path of least resistance. And just concentrate on that elbow and keep it butter churn smooth. You don't have to turn quickly. Turn as slowly as you want to not get dizzy, but keep the elbow smooth, okay? Now feel this axis down the center of your body and try to refine the turn so that you're turning around this pole, this strand of light. Look at your left elbow and keep it smooth. Go very slowly. There's no need to go quickly. Go really slowly. Now while you're doing this and keeping it smooth, pick something for which you're truly grateful and feel the gratitude as you turn. Left elbow. Look at it. Yeah. Very nice, very smooth and very nice. If you get dizzy, go a little slower. Right here. And look at the left elbow. Yeah. Turn to the left. Yeah, right. That's right. There you go. Just smooth elbows. Yeah, just smooth. No, just think I want to keep this elbow really smooth, the left elbow, and you're turning to the left counterclockwise. And look at your left elbow. No, don't close your eyes, look at your elbow. Yeah. Yeah, spread out, take the chairs away, give yourself lots of room. And really allow that breath in when it wants, out when it wants, and just allow for the rest. Now put somebody that you love into the center of the center of the center of your heart and keep that elbow going smoothly around. Don't go too fast, go just as fast as you stay stable. Keep it smooth. Good. And now just do 3 more revolutions and bow. Slow down like you're getting ready to stop. And can we have the sound go all the way down slowly? Good. No, you don't have to have the smoothie. Anything that turns you on is turning music. Okay, well, thank you very much.